Welcome to the Tech 1-2 podcast. I'm your host, John Campus. In the studio today, I'm joined by Caitlin Hunkins, Technical Account Manager at EMPIST. Today, we're going to be discussing emerging trends in cybersecurity in 2023. So let's get started.
Hello.
I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna slice you up.
Who is
I'm
this?
gonna chop you like liver.
What do you want?
I'm in the house. Do you know where I am? I could be anywhere. I'm like the wind, baby. Yeah. Where am I?
You're behind the couch.
What? How do you know that?
I can see your feet.
Ah. Okay, turn around. Close your eyes. No peek. Yeah. No. No. Hey, no peeking, no peeking. Turn around. Okay, now you can look. Now do you know where I am? You don't.
No, Mr. Killer. I don't know where you are.
I'll give you a big clue.
Grandma! Ah, baby! Oh, oh, oh! My hair!
Caitlin, thank you for joining me today. Before we get started, I would like to have a celebratory shot having you in the studio today. So cheers to you.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
All I have to do is keep myself stinking drunk and no one will be able to tell the difference.
We're good?
Beautiful.
All right, well, fantastic. So today we're talking about emerging cybersecurity trends in 2023. And we look at just the overall concepts, things that organizations really need to be concerned about, not just in 2023, but in the future. But we look at things such as, ransomware, IoT, AI.
This is about to go off.
Since 2001, the victim count as far as cyber attacks has increased from 6 victims per hour to 97 per hour, which is a staggering 1,517% increase just over the last 20 years. And it's certainly not slowing down. What do you think about that? Isn't that some staggering numbers?
It is crazy. And I feel like when it comes to those type of attacks, they used to just be one-offs, and now they are able to just infiltrate it at multiple angles. And I think that's really why we're going to keep seeing that number increase.
Yeah, and it's not just one specific industry, correct?
Correct. It's all of them. Any of them. The mom and pop shop, they'll get those type of attacks, and then even the bigger industries as well.
Look at us. Hey, look at us.
Look at us.
Huh?
Who would have thought?
Not me. Hey, these are props.
But like you mentioned, even the mom and pop. Why would the mom and pop really be concerned with cybersecurity?
I feel like some people think that they wouldn't be a target because they are maybe not have as much revenue and things like that. And saying that, they don't invest in the cybersecurity, and that makes them an easier target. And especially with those types of attacks, you get those phishing emails, and maybe they don't have that end user training because they're not investing in, educating their employees to be aware of those type of emails, and it just makes them more vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, the education is so key into it, but I mean, I think you nailed it right in the head. It's the small mom and pop. They don't even have that security posture or investments that they're making into protecting their businesses. So they'd be an easier attack for an adversary. It's just, it's you look back at years ago, the only organizations that may have been concerned with being burglarized would be organizations that had cash. The convenience stores,
Right.
the banks. Now it's anybody with a digital presence can be under attack.
Take a look. Do I really look like I have money?
We look at the cyber attacks, because I mentioned healthcare earlier, have increased to organizations affecting over 81% of companies. It isn't just healthcare. These types of things are happening everywhere. And we look at, just to kind of take a segue into IoT devices, Internet of Things devices. These are devices that are on the network that are likely unmanaged, that are likely not under IT governance or control. They're being plugged into the network. And these things pose a significant risk to organizations and are under attack by these bad actors because if they're not being managed, nobody knows they exist. It's easier to kind of slip in through the back door while nobody's looking and be able to launch larger attacks. So first off, I mean, what comes to mind when I say IoT device? Like, what are some examples of some IoT devices that an organization may have?
Yeah, I would say anything from a smart thermostat or a smart refrigerator. We see those now, or any sort of badge entry. Things along those lines that you might not really think of as technology, but it is, and it's a vulnerability, like you said.
Yeah, and we see because they're not under IT governance, and these products are marketing to consumers. Consumer employees of organizations are going to the neighborhood electronics store, buying something on an e-commerce store, and then coming into the office and plugging it in and thinking like, wow, I just made things a lot better, but they don't understand the risk that's actually posed to the organizations.
So it learns information about me? Seems like an invasion of privacy.
Dude, if you think that's bad, go to Google Earth and type in your address.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes in hand with kind of going back to COVID a little bit, post-COVID, like BYOD, making sure that everything that you have is fully equipped with the security to prevent that from happening, from the bad actors getting in. And then especially when you're in the office, making sure that your networking equipment has the ability to see that attack, flag it, to make sure that people are looking into it.
Yeah, so you can put controls in place. So if you have IT puts controls, if they can identify a device when it gets plugged in the network that hasn't been authorized,
Right.
Those are some of the safeguards that you can do.
Because I'm the last line of defense between sleaze like this and the decent people in this town.
So previously, we would have bad actors that would, one of the telltale signs of a phishing email is there's grammatical errors. Maybe there's a sense of urgency that is to do it now. It's not more nurtured that you would expect
Right.
if you're having communication with somebody. But now a bad actor can utilize an AI platform to ChatGPT or whatever platform that may be to generate an entire campaign, a sequence, a full cadence to target these organizations. So it's just making it much easier for them to do.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
I also think, with those attacks, it kind of brings in the software of cybersecurity, also having that AI to get smarter to understand those types of attacks that are coming in. EDR, we've been talking a lot about that lately, of making sure that we're more proactive now as opposed to reactive. So really making sure that you have that software in place so that you don't have to worry about it as much, and it stops the threat before it gets to somebody.
Absolutely. So from a preventative perspective, AI is a great thing. From a criminal perspective, from bad actors, it's being used. It's essentially being weaponized to target organizations, like you said earlier. Many of these organizations don't have safeguards in place. They just believe their safeguard is just, if I don't think about it, it doesn't exist, I don't need to worry about it, but
Right.
That's not the reality. But then we look at AI, and the conversation of deepfakes comes up where, when we talk about email and social engineering with phishing, that's important. That's being utilized to target users through email primarily, but there's also other social engineering that can happen, whether it's text messaging or, it could be spear phishing, whatever type form of phishing that somebody would like to do. But with deepfakes, you are now using AI to essentially, have a video, be on video with someone where it looks like the person that you're speaking to, but it's actually a cyber criminal that is utilizing AI to look just like the person that you were speaking
Yeah.
to. So, for example, it's like us talking right now, and it's not me, it's a cyber criminal.
And that's not you?
That's not me, Michael.
That's a big concern for organizations, not just organizations, even the government. I mean, I know this is a big concern for the government institutions and federal government and how they protect themselves against those types of things.
Even on like a social, maybe not necessarily business related, I know that Apple came out with the new iOS 17. They are kind of demoing that right now, and almost they're able to mimic your own voice, which is crazy.
Right on. Well, that sounds like me.
It's just another thing to think about, and it's only going to get smarter and, more risky.
The risk, I don't think the numbers that we gave earlier with the increase in victims and threats that are occurring, it's only going to continue to rise. So it's extremely important that organizations are doing the things that they need to do and businesses are doing the things they need to do to mitigate the risk. So one of the common factors in every type of cybersecurity conversation that we're going to have is going to be the role of the users. And how important are the users in what role does a user play into combating the risk of cybersecurity within your organization? And, we talk about training. I know we do training here as well. I mean, how important do you believe training is in combating the risk of cybersecurity?
I think it's probably one of the most important things. Outside of the actual software that you are able to implement, your users are a huge part of keeping everybody safe. Making sure that they're reading an email for what it is and, looking a little bit further before they click on a link, checking all the keys there, as well as remembering that it can happen to you.
Me?
Yes, you.
And I think one thing that's also important is I think users who might not be in the IT world are like, oh no, I have to do an hour of training again this year. I don't want to do it anymore. But it is really one of those things that you have to constantly think about and constantly kind of have a refresher on.
Well, you have to do the training because I think that we need to make the audience aware as well that what is the aftermath of a successful attack.
Right.
You look at a bad actor gaining access to a user's device or system, what can they do and what kind of impact can they have to the organization? And it's staggering. I mean, many organizations cannot recover from a cyber attack. And, when you look back at it, you find out that the way the point of entry within a network was because a user simply clicked on an email that they weren't supposed to click on, and they clicked on it and they didn't report it.
Right.
How come you didn't report it? What for?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, if you have to question it a little bit, ask it, report it, forward it to your support team, have them check it out. There's no harm, no foul if you ask questions. I would say if you were to click a link, don't think, oh, nothing's going to happen. I'm sure we have something in place that's going to block, the bad actors. Always say something. There's no need to be embarrassed. We all click links maybe that we shouldn't. So just making sure that you speak up definitely will go a long way and save a lot of people a lot of headaches in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you think of the dwell time, the amount of time that attackers in the business before they launch the attack. And oftentimes you'll see that, they've been in the network, something happened 30 days, 60 days ago, 6 months ago, and it was never reported. So you can really reduce, mitigate the overall impact by just reporting it. But isn't it about continual improvement as well? It isn't just, okay, we set it and forget it. We put this in place. We know that there's emerging threats that are happening every day. There's new things, new technologies, new techniques that are being used. It's extremely important that an organization does continual improvement on it. They review what's currently in place. What improvements can we make? And it isn't just a set it and forget it.
No, and I mean, this whole conversation, we're talking about these attacks getting smarter and smarter. We have to continue to be smarter and smarter and help our clients stay protected, yesterday, tomorrow, the day after. It's ever changing. There's never going to be a stagnant software that is just going to be, that's all you need. It's always going to be changing. So you always have to implement these new tools.
Yeah, so traditional antivirus isn't a good option anymore.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, okay.
Got to get that AI in there.
Yeah, so the mobile phone that you purchased, 5 years ago and you haven't updated, that's not a good thing to do.
Definitely not.
Yeah, you need to keep things up to date because, even if you look at it from a manufacturer side of things, manufacturers can't tell the future. They create products that they're delivering them already vulnerable with something.
Right.
They just don't know about it. Sometimes they know about it. They need to ship it. They need to get into the market. Other times we're going to patch it in production. And when consumers, individual users, companies don't keep things up to date, that just exposes the business and their devices to a significant risk.
Yeah, definitely.
I want no risk in the portfolio.
I think an extra layer of security that we didn't really touch on this time, but making sure that you have that MFA in place, making sure that you have the kind of second layer to say, well, am I really, where am I putting in my password? Am I getting this, authentication back? That is super important as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned MFA and password in the same breath. So both of those are important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Making sure that you don't have the same password for all of your websites, making sure you have a unique one for each website that you use, and then layering that with the MFA to make sure that you're getting your own personal code, your own personal push to that MFA application is essentially key to making sure that you don't get a breach on that account, making sure that that you're the one accessing it. Or say you didn't put in your password anywhere and you're getting prompted for approval for that MFA code, raising awareness, telling your IT team, hey, I got this push, but I'm not logging in.
I knew there was something fishy.
And the last thing we want them to get access to is email, because if you get access to email,
everything,
then you can reset the password for everything. So I really appreciate having you in the studio today. Any closing thoughts for the audience today?
No, I'm just excited for season 2 of our podcast. I really loved being on here, and I can't wait for future gatherings.
We must do this again sometime.
Thank you for joining us today on our podcast. Some key takeaways from the cybersecurity trends in 2023 is, cybersecurity isn't slowing down. The threats continue to increase. If you see something, say something. Make sure that you're reporting things over to your IT department, to the authorities within your organization that can help assist if, God forbid, you do something that you shouldn't have been doing. We also look at just stop for a minute and think before clicking on something. It's so important. Users have such a big impact in the overall cybersecurity posture and mitigating the risks to organizations. And finally, you need to protect all the devices within the network. It isn't just the endpoints or the users. It's every device that may have an IP address on the network needs to be protected. So I hope this was informative to you. Thank you for joining us today. Please share, comment, link to our podcast, and we'll see you next time.